Central. We're in the studio here with on the TV show Williams, who is the founder and CEO of Keiretsu Forum, and the
bleach blonde guy.
The bleach blonde guy. That is. Welcome to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Here's our format. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar. There's no bar. Having drinks. There's no drinks either. But we're talking business, and you, the audience, are listening in. The Best of Investing is actually a radio show that has been around since August 2010, and it airs every Saturday on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. at 1 p.m. Now, we're not a political show. We're strictly business, so everyone will be happy with that. We'll have various speakers, guest speakers, attorneys, accountants, economic advisors, business coaches. I have great co-hosts with me, Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money and Brian Burke of Praxis Capital. Now, the cool thing about this is that you're actually getting to see scenes behind the scene. If you're going to talk to Mark, don't do this. What you do is you pivot like this.
Like that.
You've got to keep your mouth near the microphone.
So we all have headphones on because we're recording a radio show that is going to be airing on the air on radio. But in addition, you get to see what happens during the commercial breaks, how we prepare for the next segment. And Mark, how do you determine the interest rate you charge your borrowers?
Oh, okay.
Until they start to crack.
If I like their face.
Yeah, I like that. It's a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of levity because I like to try to throw a little bit of humor in there because, just business by itself sometimes gets a little boring. So you got to always kind of break things up.
So Stefan, for like gold jewelry,
No, remember, his name is John.
Actually, John.
Stefan, yeah, but he goes by
okay,
John.
got it. Sorry about that.
My mother's confused.
We're going to cut to our first commercial break, and just so you, the idiots.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't really say that. Remember, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. For those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys, or gals in this case, we have a lovely guest who's a woman, sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm honored to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's premier private lender. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Write that number down, 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. The vacations are sponsored by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. Their only request is a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. You can reach them at 916-777-5511. And today's trivia theme is the old TV show MASH. Remember that?
MASH, absolutely.
Okay. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. If you check us out on YouTube, type in Best of Investing Radio Show. Also, if you want to record this show in the future, if you can't listen live, go to a website called dar.fm, type in the Best of Investing, and listen to our show. Now, today's special guest is Michelle Lerman. We've had her on before, but today she's going to be talking about year-end tax planning. And Michelle is an attorney certified by the California Board of Legal Specialization of the State Bar of California as a legal specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate law. She's been practicing for over 20 years, has published numerous articles on a wide range of estate planning topics, and is a much sought-after professional speaker. She was also selected for inclusion in the 2009 and 2010, I love this title, California Super Lawyers. You gotta love that
lawyer.
One. All right, Michelle. Yeah, welcome back to the Best of Investing.
Thank you.
All right, now let's get right into it because you gave us a lot of great topics to go over. So I'm going to let you just take it from here.
Well, estate planning is one of those areas of the law that really evolves. And if you don't stay up to date, you not only could get yourself into a lot of trouble, but you've actually missed some opportunities. So we're going to focus today about really the opportunities. Okay. What do people need to know?
And before the end of the show, I understand you're going to be giving a free report to our listeners?
That's right. We have a free report called What You Don't Know Can Hurt Your Family. 5 ways to make sure your children, wishes, and assets stay protected should something happen to you.
Okay. So one of the things here you had was 2011 Tax Act must know basics.
Right,
Take
so
it away.
there's been huge changes in the law. So in 2011, we had a tax act that went into effect that's only going to apply until the end of next year. So it
Okay.
created opportunities that starting January 1st in 2013 are going to end.
Okay.
Unless additional legislation applies. So we're already December, so we basically have next year, unless something even changes sooner.
Now, there was something in 2010 that it was unlimited, the death, the death
Right, if
tax.
you were fortunate enough to die in 2010,
Darn
your
it.
heirs didn't have to pay any estate taxes.
No, unfortunately I lived, so I didn't get the benefit of that, but, or my heirs didn't.
I can't say you missed an opportunity. That would just
Not for that.
not be right.
No.
That would just not be right. But it's true, in 2010, someone could pass away without any estate tax at all. So George Steinbrenner, billionaires, a lot of wealth, people passed away and there were no estate taxes
Okay,
at
that
all.
was in 2010.
That was in 2010.
Okay.
In 2011, now the exclusion amount went to $5 million. But
that's still
really,
pretty high.
that's still pretty high, and that means as a couple it could be $10 million. But the real news is that you can leave that while you're living.
Like through a gift tax?
Through a gift,
Or
and there's no gift tax on leaving that while you're living. So that's really the limited opportunity that people should be focusing on now, especially if you think that you're going to have a taxable estate upon your demise. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Property values are low, right?
Yeah.
Why
Lower,
not
definitely.
lower? Definitely lower.
And
So why
possibly
not?
declining more.
And possibly declining more, but eventually, hopefully, going up.
Yes.
So why not transfer them now, free of gift tax, and let them grow and let all of that income go into the estate of your children or grandchildren?
Well, as I remember, the credit has been for either estate or gift, right?
Exactly.
So in theory, you could have, even years before, given away a lot of your assets and not had any tax because you would have used up the credit for gifting rather than estate.
That's true, but the key word is a lot.
That's
The word
true.
a lot, because what does a lot mean? Well, it used to be $1 million, and now it's $5 million.
Well, I know the IRS,
So that's the
a
big
lot
news.
is anything. It's
Right.
just, how much money did you make? Send it in, right?
So Michelle, when I think of estate planning, I think of revocable trusts, and I come across them a lot. A lot of my clients that are who loan money to our company loan them through revocable trusts, et cetera. So if I set up a trust a number of years ago and maybe I haven't had it reviewed in a while, what are some of the things that I should be considering given some of these these changes you're talking about?
Well, the type of trust you need is going to depend on what the law is. So you can imagine that if the law used to be that you could only leave $1 million free of estate tax, that means for a married couple $2 million upon your demise. The type of trust you have, you can understand, is going to be a lot different than if now someone could leave $5 million and a couple could leave $10 million free of estate tax.
And is that gross, or do you get to take into consideration the liens against the
Oh
property?
no, you get to take into consideration the liens. This is talking about your net,
Okay.
net estate. So to answer your question, you really need to think about what type of trust do you need. I call it an I love you trust that says you and I are married, I love you, and I'm going to give everything to you when I die. Do
Right.
whatever you want with it.
Okay.
Do you want that kind of trust, or do you want the type of trust that says, I love you and I trust you and I want you to have everything upon my demise, but
I knew there was a but there
right,
somewhere.
but I want part of it to go in an irrevocable trust. Irrevocable meaning you can't marry Sue.
Yeah.
She's my little model that I always put when I speak. With the high boots and the mini skirt, and as a client recently said, he says, if something happens to my wife, I'm marrying the 18-year-old.
I thought it was actually.
Okay.
So what kind of trust do you want? And in the past, it's been very tax driven. You needed to have an irrevocable trust, even if you had a very modest estate, because if you left everything, this is really key, if you left everything in an I love you trust, and then your spouse later died, your estate could be subject to a lot of estate tax because you didn't have an irrevocable
Irrevocable.
trust set up. So it used to be tax driven. Now that you've got a $5 million estate that can pass free of estate tax, $10 million for a married couple, we have to start thinking, do I need that irrevocable trust because I'm worried about my spouse marrying Sue?
Oh, that's a good point. I know that a lot of them were set up with life insurance and that sort of thing, but let me ask you, because this reminded me of when I asked about the gross versus the net. If you have a house or a rental property worth $1 million and you owe $1.5 million on it, do you get to still kind of take $500,000 away from the rest of your assets, or is it asset by asset? You know what I mean? Don't they take just the total gross versus everything you owe?
Yeah, no, it's the total net estate
Okay,
is
that's
what you're
good.
subject to estate tax. Plus, if you own something and you only own a fraction of it, you maybe have a partner, then the IRS is also frequently giving valuation discounts.
Absolutely,
So-
because trying to sell 10% of a property
Sure.
is not worth exactly 10% of the value.
Sure, but the IRS calculates their estate tax based on net. But still, you can imagine the type of trust you would have if someone hasn't reviewed their trust in a long time is very different under the current laws. But here's the problem. In only a year, the law is supposed to revert back to that $1 million exclusion. So now what kind of trust do I need?
Back to the irrevocable one.
Maybe. And so the biggest mistake that people make is thinking, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to wait because I want to know what the law is. But
Yeah, because they may change it again.
They may
Yeah.
change it again,
Is this
but
the kind
you
of
need
question
a-
you ask your wife, how much do you love me? And plan ahead.
how much do you trust me?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
yeah.
love.
That's really the best one. How much do you trust me? Yes.
Right.
So we got 3 weeks to the end of the year. What are some of the other things that you're suggesting your clients take into consideration for tax planning?
Well, the biggest thing I want people to look at now is whether they should make what's called annual exclusion gifts. So what we've been talking about is a lifetime exclusion. It's now called a basic exclusion amount, and that's the $5 million that you can leave. You can leave it upon your demise, you can leave it during your lifetime, but in addition to that, people can give unlimited amounts of what we refer to as annual exclusion gifts. Sometimes people think it's the $10,000, it actually went up to $12,000, now it's $13,000. And you
Oh.
can leave that to any person, as many people as you want. So often you
Oh, it
give
doesn't have to be family members.
It doesn't.
No,
It
I
doesn't.
remember that, and then
Yeah.
also your wife, like for us married people, your wife can also give
Right.
13,000. So if you give
So it doubles up.
26,000 basically
Right.
per
So,
person.
exactly, so your spouse can give it, and you can also give it to your children, you can give it to the in-law, you can give it to the grandchildren. So you can imagine that if you do that over and over, you've actually transferred a lot of wealth, especially if you do it with interest, say, in a partnership or something like that. You can either even
Doing
increase
10%
more.
per year.
Right,
Yeah.
whatever
Right,
the-
Right, you
Uh,
can
just
discount
imagine
the
they-
value of property held in a partnership, so you
Right.
can actually gift
Yeah.
it
Gift
away
even more.
faster, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
like I can imagine
Right.
just the paperwork that needs to happen
Yeah.
on that. But we got to go to our first commercial break. So here's our first trivia question. Remember, the theme is the old TV show MASH. The 8063rd was a neighboring MASH unit. What were the 4 numbers of the main MASH unit on the show? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Again, their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. The 8063rd was a neighboring MASH unit. What were the 4 numbers of the main MASH unit on the show? One more time, 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, address, email address, speak slowly on that, and phone number, and we will be right back.
Awesome.
First, second,
Do you have an extra pen?
I do.
Excuse me. Go ahead and do that. Use the timer too.
Could I
so-
put these on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I have your seat and take over your show?
Sure.
Oh, there's nothing on yet, huh? Are you getting air conditioning sound?
Uh,
Till Really?
I
No.
don't think so.
I am, but that's okay.
I didn't even
So-
think about that.
You know
I
what?
didn't hear it
You
till
see
pointed
where
it out.
the key is on that thing? Pull
Yeah.
that little thing off and just gently, slowly push the thing until you hear the pshh. Just take it off. Yeah, and then just slowly push that to the side.
And this reference actually is to the 2010 Tax Act. It happened in December of 2010, not 2011.
What questions do we want to go through on segment 2? Actually, I'm kind of drawing a blank on some good questions here.
Well, since a lot of people have kids in college, that's another way that in addition, how do how can grandparents minimize estate tax and help their kids with college?
And when you have time, Edward, which way's off?
Gently push it.
So
middle.
minimize, so that
Yeah,
threw me there
just
for a
take-
second.
take the black thing and just
So
gently until you
minimize
hear the
That's
taxes.
actually
Yeah.
number 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then
This one there, because
There-
as long as you make
okay,
it
that's
correct,
it.
it's
It'll
another
go off in
way
a second.
of getting more.
Edward, how's my I got fainter in my headset, so I just want to make sure my mic is still registering on.
Oh, yeah, no, in fact,
Okay, good.
I've had to turn it down, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Who knows the answer to the question?
I don't know.
Ah,
Good
good.
clue.
Stump the guests.
Stump
Okay,
us.
Stump the guest,
Stump the
okay.
hosts.
All right, so when we come back, we'll continue on.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll go right into number 2, because that's actually pretty interesting, the tuition and medical expense
Okay.
opportunities.
And your question, your email question from a listener is, if a loan comes due and the borrower cannot pay it off, do you automatically foreclose or will you extend the loan? That's a great question.
We foreclose, of course.
So when we come back, we'll just go right into the email time. And then what's going on in real estate?
Okay.
All right. You guys ready? Having fun? Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, and I'm in the studio here with Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money and our guest, Michelle Lerman of Lerman Law Partners. And when we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. The 8063rd was a neighboring MASH unit. Remember, the theme today is the old show MASH. What were the 4 numbers of the main MASH unit? And I understand we stumped our guests here.
Stump the co-host
So the
and
co-host
the guest.
and the guest. It was the 4077.
Oh, that's
now
right.
that's right. Remember.
I don't know, it was so long ago when I was watching all those reruns. Now it's all Seinfeld.
Yes, exactly. Okay, Mark, you wanted to ask Michelle a couple of questions.
Yeah, on the sheet, Michelle, you gave us on notes that there's something in here about tuition and medical expenses. I didn't realize that there was an opportunity for some substantial estate savings when it comes to tuition. I know I've got a daughter that's visiting colleges all this year. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So we talked about the $5 million exclusion and the fact that you can leave that at your demise and you can also gift that now. We talked about the annual exclusion that you can actually give $13,000 to as many people as you want. I told people I'm available,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
$13,000,
Exactly.
I'm available. And in addition to that, you can also pay for tuition, for example, for college or medical expenses directly. And that's in addition to the other gifts that you can make. So as you can see, the idea is to, as long as you can afford it, to go ahead and reduce the value of your estate so that upon your demise, your estate is lower and hence estate taxes are lower.
Yeah, because the income tax deduction for medical expenses, you've got that 7.5% of adjusted gross income limitation. So a lot of people can't pay their medical expenses and get tax deduction. So I guess that would be one way to help them, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what people miss, and the reason I included on year-end planning is that now we're starting to we have 4 kids, 2 of them are in college, so I'm very aware of those bills coming in and we're starting to get invoiced for next semester. And it's important that people pay it directly. You can't reimburse someone for that. So if, for example, you have grandchildren, you want to help with your grandchildren's education. You can't pay the money to your child to reimburse them.
No, you have to pay it directly to
You
the
have to.
institution.
Ah, okay, so
Exactly.
that's the nuance.
Exactly. But it also is unlimited. So think again about how much you can get out of your estate, thereby eventually reducing estate tax.
Any plastic surgeries you need, Mark? I'll be glad to forward some. No, just kidding.
I forwarded this one to my dad.
Yeah.
Dad, you can pay for college
Yeah,
for my
exactly.
kids.
What's the idea about generation skipping tax planning or transfer tax planning? I hear that a lot, and I'm not really sure why is that a useful tool?
Well, the government is smart, despite what
Despite
it
what
might
we all
seem.
think, yeah.
Exactly. And they don't want people to transfer, large wealthy families to transfer wealth to grandchildren and let it skip the generation of their children for estate tax purposes, right? Because think about it,
Yeah.
if you could transfer an unlimited amount of money to grandchildren, then you could have a whole generation of children that there's no transfer tax due.
But in theory, couldn't you transfer to your kids and then eventually they transfer to their kids?
Yeah, but then it would be subject to estate tax when the children die. And they'd have the same limitations, right? Because you can't just leave an unlimited amount. You can leave the exclusion amount. You can make annual exclusion gifts. So
That's
if you
true.
did that, you left it to your kids would have the same restraint.
It almost sounds like the object is not to make a lot of money, just so you don't have to pay estate tax, but I know that's not the case.
Right.
So
right.
generation skipping, it's not because your kids you think your kids are losers and you don't want to give it to them, you want to give it to their
I'm
offspring.
sure that comes into
I
play
always
sometimes.
think about that. I was like, why would you skip it and go straight to the grandchildren? I just
Well,
don't-
there's actually, it's a good question. There's actually a lot of reason why you would. I mean, some of it might be you might not trust the children, but when we talk about generation skipping, it's a little deceiving because we're not talking about skipping the children completely. What we're often talking about is a trust for the children that passes to their children when they die. So are
Is
you
it
following
an
that?
irrevocable
That makes
and
more
it's
sense.
right.
Okay.
Right, so that it's actually often a transfer tax benefit for doing that, but also protection. For example, let's say you said you had kids, Mark?
Yes,
And
two.
so your oldest is how old?
16.
16, okay. Well, let's not say that your 16-year-old got married, but let's say that your
God
16,
forbid.
right, let's just say that when your kids grow up, they get married. If you leave everything outright to your children, where do you think your children's estate plan is going to leave your assets?
Well, hopefully to their
their
children.
kids.
Right, but
Or
what
the
usually
government.
happens, they're going to leave it to a spouse.
Oh, right,
Sure.
right. Oh,
And
got
if
it.
they should get divorced, then your money that you've worked so hard for has now been subject to your kid's estate plan that left it to a spouse instead of the children. So by creating a generation skipping trust, you can say, you can have this, you give it to your child in trust. You could even make your children the trustee of the trust.
And do they basically get the income?
They can even take the principal.
Oh, they can, okay.
Sure, they can use it as they need for whatever they need it for, health, education, support, maintenance. But the key is that the grandparents' estate plan is what controls it, not the child's estate plan.
But if the children spend all the money,
If the children spend all the money, then they spend all the money.
Okay.
Then you might not make the children the trustee of the trust, if that's what you're worried
if
about.
you're worried about it, yeah, you should
Then
know
you-
ahead of time.
right.
In fact, my daughter's already picked out my wheelchair, so I gotta be very
Right.
careful of
So
it.
the
Hopefully there's a
idea-
motor.
Right. Well, I heard that the longevity of your parents often determines how long you'll live. And so I've heard a lot of people starting to take much better care of their parents
What
once
if
they learn.
one got hit by a bus? Does that matter? Okay.
Okay, that's a different story.
That's a different story,
But
okay.
your question is really good about the generation skipping. So the idea is that there is a certain amount excluded from tax. There's actually, what people don't know, there's an additional tax when you leave money to grandchildren. But there's also an exclusion, meaning an amount that you can leave without that tax. We often refer to it as a GST exclusion. So what a GST trust does is up to the exclusion amount, it allows you to transfer an asset to your children, then provide upon their demise it goes to their children, and it could be free of transfer tax. Because
Okay.
you're using the GST exclusion. Have I
Okay.
lost you completely?
Just a little bit. So, okay, before I forget, because I know that there's going to be people out there who are going to say, I don't quite have all of the aspects here. I've been taking notes, but I couldn't write it down fast
Right, it
enough.
sounds important,
But it sounds
but
important.
I don't know
But I
that
don't
I
get
know
it.
what they're talking about.
That's
I
right.
don't get it.
I
Yeah,
don't
like
understand.
my 10-year-old says on her math homework, I don't
I don't
get
get
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
And
don't
also,
you
why
get?
do I have to learn this?
Yeah, that
So, Michelle, right now, just how do people get a hold of you?
Right, so the easy way to do it is email me, Michelle, with 2 L's, at lermanlaw.com. So MICHELLE at LERMANLAW.com. Michelle at lermanlaw.com. Or feel free to call us on our toll-free number. It's 1-800-5-LERMAN. And that's 1-800-553-7626. You can also see us on the web, lermanlaw.com. You'll get right to our website.
And the other thing too, you do a lot of public speaking, don't you, Michelle?
I do.
I know that.
I
So
do.
for those of you out there that you don't really want to pick up the phone because maybe you're afraid you're going to get sold, something you don't want to. Don't want to buy. Gee, when does that ever happen? You can visit one of your speaking engagements. Is there a way to sign up on your website to get notified of when you're speaking?
Absolutely. Just go to our website and right from our website you can email me and tell us to put you on our email list, and you'll get notice of our next speaking event.
Well, the other thing is, for our listeners, you have a free special report. What you don't know can hurt your family. 5 easy ways to make sure your children's wishes and assets stay protected should something happen to you. Tell us about that. What are you giving our listeners?
Right, so it's a free report with valuable information, including even links to a place where you can go to download the California statutory will form. My goal, and the reason
I'm sure that's fun reading.
That's right. But the reason I do so much speaking is I am so passionate about making sure that people are protected. We also handle a lot of probate, and I see the money that can be wasted when someone doesn't have proper planning, when it's so easy to plan. So we talk about 5 basic things that everyone should know, including, if you don't have a lot of assets, download a statutory will form. Get yourself a guardian. Get yourself the basics. We recently had a probate that ended up going to distant relatives. One in Europe, one lived in the Midwest, just because he didn't have a current will with a live beneficiary.
And that's not what he intended, I'm sure.
No.
Okay, stay with us
No.
in the studio here, because when we come back from commercial break, we're going to get into email time and other interesting real estate and other economic stuff that's
Real
going
estate
on.
nuggets.
Real estate nuggets. Okay, here is our second trivia question as we go to commercial break. Again, the theme is the old TV show MASH, which, by the way, Harry Morgan just died.
Oh.
96 years old. Remember him? Okay.
Wow, he lived a long time.
He sure did. What was the name of the character who dressed in women's clothes trying to get a Section 8 to get out of the Army? I see a couple of smiles on this one. I think you know this one. The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Again, their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Check them out. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. What was the name of the character who dressed in women's clothes trying to get out of the Army via a Section 8? Again, call 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, address, email address, and phone number, and speak slowly if you would, because last time people have been leaving messages a little bit too quickly here. And we will be right back.
I keep wanting to say Kramer, but it's not.
That's him.
Cross-dressing guy, yeah, he was funny.
You're close, though.
I know. It's
See his face perfectly.
Oh yeah,
His
yeah.
dress.
Yeah,
His
right, yeah.
dress.
He's a funny guy with a big nose.
That's it.
It's, what the heck was his name? Do you remember his name? I'm
No.
totally drawing a blank again. It's,
All right.
Jesus. I hope our listeners have an easier time with this than we are.
They
I always
do,
want to
actually.
call my husband whenever there's a trivia question because he knows all of it.
Ah,
Is that right?
He's my
Oh, Jeff's good at that,
encyclopedia.
huh?
Yeah, he's my encyclopedia.
Good people.
Okay.
Okay, so when we come back, we'll just go right into the email time. And then, what's going on in real estate?
Okay.
All right. You guys ready? Having fun?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's try this. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf and Michelle Lerman today. And we cut to the second commercial break. Here is our trivia question. Again, the theme is the old TV show MASH. What was the name of the character who dressed in women's clothes trying to get a Section 8 to get out of the Army? And the answer is?
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Okay, played by Jamie Farr.
Yeah.
Corporal Max Klinger.
Klinger. I kept wanting to say
Kramer.
Kramer.
Close.
You were close.
Darn that.
Very close. Okay, Mark, we have received an email for you from a listener with a very good question, actually, because Mark does hard money loans, and I know you'll get into that with the audience here. If a loan comes due and the borrower cannot pay it off, do you automatically foreclose, or will you extend the loan? That's a great question.
That is a great question. And you know, the hard money lending industry it has such a bad rap, but I think that is because most of the public thinks of hard money as hard money, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's really, we even changed the name of the industry in the last few years. We call ourselves private money lenders as opposed to hard money lenders. It's part of it is because I think it's a kind of a softer, easier, more PC name, but also it kind of, I think it recognizes the fact that it's really a different industry. The industry has grown and blossomed and thrived in the last several years as a result of the fact that the banks really stopped making a lot of types of loans. I mean, after we had the financial crisis in October of 2008, as a result of that, banks have become very, very reluctant to make certain types of loans. For example, they're not making many loans to real estate investors. We remember in 2005 that you could buy real estate. All you had to do was be able to fog a mirror and state your loan as being, I make $250,000 a year, even if you made $30,000 a year, and you could buy property all over California, and a lot of us did that.
And the hard money lenders back then would be gunning for the property potentially.
Right.
And of course, if you want a softer name, you could call yourself Powder Puff Loan Company.
But anyway, so yes, we're private money lenders, formerly known as hard money lenders. We make short-term loans, generally secured by non-owner occupied real estate, and short-term meaning maybe 12, 24 months. The idea is it's usually, some people call it like a bridge loan. The idea is, hey, I need a short-term loan to bridge the gap between now and an event that I think is going to happen in the future when I'll be able to pay it off maybe with bank financing, or I'm going to sell the property, I'm going to flip it. But we did make a number of loans 2 years ago that were 24-month loans, and the loans have matured. And so the question is do we automatically foreclose on those loans, on those properties when they mature? And the answer is no, of course not. Really, most of my investors, and I use private money, private individuals in the Bay Area are the funding sources for our real estate secured loans. I might add they're getting a very nice return for funding that. They are getting fixed rates return generally between 8 and 10% for investing in these notes secured by generally rental property, for example. There's a lot of residential 1 through 4 property.
Yeah, and if the borrower's still paying,
well, that's just
they're
it.
going to get 8 to 10%.
Right. So you've got a good borrower. He's made his payments on time every month. They get usually before the 10th of the month. They're making their rent payments, or the interest payments on that loan. And so we have not had a problem getting most of our lenders to agree to extend. Now, what if the lender does not want to extend? Well, then I've got an opportunity to maybe make a new loan to that borrower. I can find someone to either assign that note to, or to renew that note, or to extend that note. There's many options, but generally speaking, I have found that the investors in our companies don't really want to foreclose on property. This is not what we call a loan-to-own situation.
No, and if you have other investors, maybe that one investor who took the note, he needs the money because of, let's say, his daughter's getting married or something like that. He doesn't necessarily want to foreclose either. He just wants his money out, and maybe you just find another investor to take it over, right?
Right, well, and that's exactly it. When it becomes a problem is if the property has gone down in value. Now that has even happened in the last several years. We've watched as some communities have fallen even since 2009, when many of us thought that was the bottom of the market. We've experienced this double dip, and in fact the second dip has gone below the first dip in many markets.
But if the property's gone down in value, your investor definitely wouldn't want to foreclose, right?
Well, that's exactly right.
As long as the borrower's making the payments.
As long as the borrower's making the payments. And right now, the best play in real estate, in my opinion, in the Bay Area is rental property, is acquiring property for rental income for a long-term hold. You certainly don't want to be buying property for appreciation today, and fixing and flipping, while it's very popular, and a lot of my borrower clients are in fact buying fixing and flipping in the Bay Area, it is much more difficult than it was 5 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, our other co-host, I mean, he's been buying rental property
Yeah.
at Fort William.
Well, it's not for the faint of heart, and I've had clients borrow money from me to do a fix and flip and make no money because they didn't do their homework well enough. So it is something that you have to be careful of. And
But
it's the
your
reason-
borrower, but your lenders didn't get
No,
hurt.
no, no, our lenders don't get hurt because, again, that's the reason why we don't go higher than 65% of the purchase price. I don't care how good a deal a borrower tells me they're getting, so I'm buying this at wholesale, you make me a higher loan.
Everyone's buying
You know,
wholesale.
if I'm getting the property for 65 cents on the dollar, does that mean at 65% you'll fund 100% of the purchase price? I get that question almost every day, and the answer is no, of course not, because you're not getting a property for 65 cents on the dollar. You're getting a good deal,
Yeah.
but that's the retail price today.
Well, the
There's-
other part is you want you want your borrower to have skin in the game. You don't want him to just throw his
Exactly.
hands up and go, this didn't work, see you later.
Right, you don't want him to get halfway through the project, realize he's got cost overruns or problems, and walk away, leaving the lender holding the bag. Unfortunately, we have not had any of those situations happen.
Okay.
And do you also, if I wanted to invest in a loan, is that, someone would come to you for that, or just if someone needed a loan?
Both. I have two types of clients. At Pacific Private Money, we have our investor clients, and thank you for asking, Michelle, who...
By the way, I didn't put her up to that. She just came up with that on her own.
No, brilliant
Well, I mean,
question.
when you think about, what do you get in the bank? That's the problem.
Well, you're getting
I mean,
0.45,
So-
0.5% if you're
Exactly.
lucky, and
Right.
so I have approximately 100 active investors for whom are on our distribution list, and as we get loan requests and we underwrite the loan and we decide this is a good opportunity, I would put my money in it. So this is that's kind of the gauge we use if we feel safe and if we feel comfortable with the parameters of the loan as we underwrite it. We then distribute in an executive summary form that investment opportunity to those who are on our distribution list. So we're located in Marin County, and a lot of our clients live in Sonoma County, Marin, and San Francisco. Actually, they are all over the Bay Area who have called or emailed us and said, hey, please put me on your distribution list for trust deed secured note investments. And
Yeah, but
those
you're not limited to those 100 clients.
No.
Sometimes there might be people who say, I only want something in San Francisco, or I don't want anything in San Francisco.
Well, 100 sounds like a lot, but they're liquid at different times, and they're looking
Exactly.
for different types of clients. So there's, I welcome anyone to for more information, to go to our website at pacificprivatemoney.com and read about trust deed investments, because you can make easily, I mean, it's so easy to make 8, 9, 10% fixed interest on your savings. Interest is paid monthly. The notes are short-term. It's six months, 12 months, 24 months. You choose how comfortable you are going out. I've got some investors that say, hey, you got any 5-year notes out there? I want to lock my money up at 10%
Well,
for
the thing
5
I like
years.
about it is that you, if you invest in it, you know exactly what you're getting. I mean, when people say, well, I don't know what the risks are, well, I mean, it's not rocket science. Here's the risk, that the properties go way, way, way down in value, even more, and you can't get your money out when you sell the property if you have to foreclose.
Well,
Right.
they're right. Property values would have to go down another 25% for the types of loans that we do to really be in any kind of jeopardy, in my opinion. And I don't know anyone who's predicting in this market that that's a likelihood. I think that's
Not from this
very
point.
unlikely. I think
Yeah.
I think most of the air has been let out of the tire. I think we're near the bottom, if not at the bottom. And but
Yeah, even if you don't expect a huge
Right.
appreciation, you don't necessarily have that much extra risk.
But
It's
even
just-
still, we're not doing 80% loans. 65% is the max, and a lot of loans we do are quite a bit less. I mean, I'm looking at a loan right now in San Francisco that's 50% loan to value. I mean, that is not a difficult decision to make in terms of security.
All right.
We've always gone out and actually looked at the property if ever we were gonna invest in
Most of
that.
our most of our lender
So-
clients do,
Right,
absolutely.
you'd say,
Bricks.
okay, would I
Don't
wanna
kick the
own
tires.
this?
Yes.
Right, would
That's
I
the
wanna own
major
this?
thing. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to cut to our third and final trivia question at the commercial break here. Again, the theme is the still TV show MASH. Before B.J. Honeycutt joined the show, who was Hawkeye's sidekick who shared his tent? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. I don't see either one of you shaking your heads yes on this one. This is a little bit harder.
I know that one.
You do know that one. All right, okay. Michelle, you guess you don't watch too much TV. Okay. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. Before B.J. Honeycutt joined the show, who was Hawkeye's sidekick who shared his tent? Again, call 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, address, email address, say this all slowly when you call, and your phone number, and we'll be right back. Excellent.
It was like almost 11 minutes, I guess.
Yeah. So I gotta
I'm not using the same watch you are. I'm just kind of.
Yeah, that's okay. I gotta. Okay. You want to cover the last part? Just a little news of the day.
Yeah, I've got a couple of articles here that are
Okay.
kind of noteworthy. It's just basically the monthly statistics that come out on sales. You get talk about the pending home sales for October and the direction they're going, and then just kind of comments about what these numbers are meaning and what they mean for next year.
Okay.
Do a lot of the listeners have real estate? Is that a big, would you say, part of it?
Hard
Because
to
the reason I
say.
mentioned is that I'm the certified specialist in the firm in estate planning, but we're known as the real estate investor's lawyer. And
Well, I thought I would bring that up in
Yeah.
the next segment.
Oh, okay.
realestateinvestorlaw.com.
Your husband is the
Right.
famous Jeff Lerman.
Yeah, it's realestateinvestorlaw.com is our website. It'll get you the same place as lermanlaw.com.
Ooh, that's right. Well, that's fine.
Actually, what we can do, and I told Robert this, is that if we go over, we'll just take out, since we're not doing Dominican University, we'll just take your commercial out.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but I'll still kind of give us the time here. All right. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Kramer, how you doing?
Okay, you got 20,
Oh, we don't.
20-something minutes on
No,
my
yeah,
tape.
we don't need that much. Okay. Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Haunt, the famous private money lender from Pacific Private Money, and Michelle Lerman of Lerman Law Partners. And when we cut to the third and final commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, the theme is the old TV show MASH. Before B.J. Honeycutt joined the show, who was Hawkeye's sidekick who shared his tent? Now, Mark, you said you know this answer.
That would be Trapper John.
Trapper John McIntyre. Very good. Okay, Mark, let's talk about today. What is going on in real estate today?
Well, it's the end of the year, and we've been on for a year and a half, and just about every show, Edward, we talk about real estate and the direction the market's heading. And so, of course, as I'm doing some show prep, I'm looking at the blog posts and reports. And this week we had the release of the October pending home sales index. And what that is, pending home sales are basically new contracts, what properties got into new contracts, and that's actually a forward-looking statistic, so that's important. In fact, in my opinion, it's more important than how many units were sold last month. Now, if you listen to last week's show, we talked about how the sales for September were down year over year, not by a lot, but down, not up, and how this fourth quarter, at least in the eyes of a lot of real estate agents, have been pretty disappointing. Unit sales have not gone where a lot of people thought they were going to go. So here the October pending home sales index comes out, and it says, well, pending home sales are up, and that's good news. But I also know that there's something happening in the market, and this was another report that I read from, this actually comes from CNBC, and it's the fact that realtors are reporting higher cancellations, and that this cancellation rate right now in home sales contracts is 20%, and that's that's an all-time high. And
What are they saying? What is attributing it?
well, they're at first guess, you might say, well, it's maybe because people aren't getting the financing, but as it turns out, that only accounts for about 10% of the cancellations apparently, and the bigger issues are things like failed inspections, and the biggest one really is buyers with cold feet. And economic conditions.
Wondering, is it going to go down lower?
Right,
Yeah.
By buying at the bottom.
and appraisal's not coming through. So we have this frustrating condition, and it's particularly frustrating if you're buying, fixing, and flipping out there. I know that there is a lot of flippers out there that are sitting on inventory that's on the market, and they're wondering where the buyers are. So the prediction, so here we are. It's December. Not a lot of people are expecting a whole lot more to happen during the holidays. So we're all kind of looking forward to next year. Okay, what's going to happen in 2012? And usually the selling season generally accepted starts around after the Super Bowl. That's kind of like when the housing market picks up. And so we're saying, okay, well, spring and late winter, where are we going? And that's where everybody's crystal ball tends to differ a little bit. It's some people seem to think, well, we should stabilize and maybe even see a little improvement in the second half of 12, while others are going, maybe we're going to see a little bit more softening of prices. And I don't claim to have a clearer crystal ball than anyone else, but I do tend
Why do I have you as my co-host then?
but I do tend to feel, well, I just want to make that caveat, I'm not a guru, but I do tend to believe that I think we're at or near the bottom, and I do think the buyers will come out. I think there is some pent-up demand going on right here. I think the banks are going to start releasing more foreclosure inventory, which actually I think is going to be snapped up by investors who have been waiting for more inventory to come on the market. There's a lot of educational seminars going on out there telling people that there's never been a better time to buy rental property.
Well, interest rates are still pretty low, and the rental market is still pretty strong. But a question for you about the part about the inspections, because you said some of it has to do with inspections not passing, but that you could just adjust the price. I mean, it's not going to be a real surprise, let's say, to a seller, because any buyer who does an inspection is going to figure out if it's got termite damage or whatever, and it is what it is. I mean, the seller can't just say, well, just ignore that and keep the price high.
Well, you're talking about what they refer to as equity sales, not distressed sales. Those are the sales by either someone who's fully repaired a property and is looking for market value, or somebody who is living in their home and needs to move, and it's not a distressed sale. They just want to sell it for a fair market price. And it's very, very frustrating. They're competing with distressed sales, and since distressed sales make up nearly half of the sales each month in this current market, you're dealing with a mentality where people just, well, if you're asking $250, then I'm going to offer $225, and
Sure.
and so when an inspection comes in and there's the inspector's paid to find something, and they usually do. So it's just I think it's a number of factors, but until we get out of this mindset that housing is continuing to drop, and I do believe it's a mindset. It's like the stock market. I think people's expectations make things so. I don't think it has
Sure.
anything to do, because it's not like we've seen a tsunami wave of new foreclosures on the market, and so
Not
it's-
yet.
Well,
You said the bank
yeah.
maybe, but
Um,
one quick thing I wanted to bring up with
Yeah.
real estate here was something I thought was kind of interesting that I saw in the paper, that it seemed actually, in my opinion, that the city of Novato actually did something on the positive side, and that was it says the title was "Fees Rejected for Commercial Developers." So basically, the city of Novato will likely not ask commercial developers to pay for affordable housing, at least not in the next few years. So what I took that to mean is that they realize that the developers just can't afford, because prices are so low, to pay these additional fees, but yet there's still a need for this commercial development. So it's kind of nice to see a city actually make a pro-development.
Yeah, if you want to incentivize developers,
Yeah.
that's the thing. The fees have gotten way out of hand. That's absolutely sure. I just wanted to mention before the end of this segment, Michelle Lerman's been our guest, and she's one of the best estate planning attorneys in the Bay Area. But your husband is Jeff Lerman, who we've had on as a guest, and He's the real estate investors attorney, and so you guys you're pretty involved in the real estate market yourselves.
Definitely, definitely.
And what's the other URL of your website that also brings you to Lerman Law? You were telling me, I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, it's realestateinvestorlaw.com.
Realestateinvestorlaw.com.
That's our website.
All right, guys and gals. Thoughts for the day. Watch what you mix in the washing machine. Now this happened to me. I accidentally put my San Francisco Giants orange t-shirt in, not realizing my wife's Angora sweater was in at the same time. And I didn't realize it until I put it on. I looked like Tickle Me Elmo. Not a good sight, I'll tell you. And they say money can't buy happiness. All I want is a chance to prove it. Okay, tune in next week to the Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Our guests are going to be a couple of realtors who are going to give us advice regarding homes. It ought to be a very good show. I've known them for a long time. It actually would be kind of fun and a little bit of funny too. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be having another special trivia contest. So make sure that you tune in to the Best of Investing. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long.
Awesome.
That's okay.
It's your job to do the laughing track and the applause.
Get a sound check on John, please.
Yes, hello, John Garfolo here at Stephen Hill Jewelry
Great.
Designers, turning off his
You
phone.
got a great radio voice, John.
Yeah, come on. You got nothing to worry
Guys
about.
ready?
Absolutely.
Rolling.
We're born ready.
Okay, today's trivia theme is famous parents of actors. And we're actually going to have a little special trivia contest because John Garfolo from Stephen Hill Jewelers is going to be giving away one of our lucky contestants, so to speak, a gift. And I have personally purchased jewelry from John's jewelry store, again, Stephen Hill in San Rafael. And I still remember what I purchased, and it's been going on at least 15 years.
It's Stephen, not Stefan?
It is Stephen.
Sorry about that.
Stephen Hill, that's okay.
Stephen Hill, okay, I always wondered about that.
Okay, John, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thanks, nice to be here.
Okay, now, first tell us about gold and platinum, because you mentioned something to me a couple of days ago I thought was really interesting.
Yes, I mentioned to you that for the first time in history, platinum is actually less expensive per ounce pure than gold. That's never happened before, and I told you partially why, which is
Go ahead.
Because the automobile industry is so tied to platinum catalytic converters. When they're not selling as many cars, they're not using as much platinum, so there's a decrease in the market right now. So gold has soared above it.
Cool.
Really?
Okay.
In 1994, Tonya Harding was accused of hiring a hitman to take out the knee of her rival skater. Who was this rival skater? It's almost like Daytona 500, right?
Yeah, almost.
Okay, it's almost like NASCAR.
I know that one.
You do
I
know
do
that
too.
one.
I actually
You
do
do?
know.
Oh, okay.
I
I
don't
was
know how
hiding
long
my
it's been since
answer.
I've actually. Yeah, you have to hide your answer because I might copy off of it. But I think I actually know this one.
Kramer,
which
you
is
know the
unusual.
answer?
No, but what was the name of the hitman?
Oh,
I can see
Guido.
him. Guido.
He
Guido.
was a big
He
guy,
was a
wasn't
big
he?
I
guy.
think it was a big guy, yeah.
Have you seen Tonya Harding lately? She's scary
She's
looking.
boxing.
She
still?
does like MMA or something like that, or boxing, or.
Didn't she kind of get creamed?
Yeah, she did. She
Yeah.
just got.
That was sort of like. Do you remember?
It's almost like not showing up. She was physically in the ring, but she could hardly throw a punch. I can talk about latest real estate news.
Okay, because we'll get into the email time in the fourth segment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. There was a time when
Oh.
these guys were going to homeless people and going,
Oh,
here,
right.
sign up
Right.
for this, right?
That wasn't long ago. They were
wasn't
doing
too
that in
long
LA a couple of years ago, and there was these these older ladies. They were getting life insurance policies on these homeless people, and then running them over with cars. This was just a couple of years ago in LA County.
In 1994, Tonya Harding was accused of hiring a hitman to take out the knee of her rival skater. Who was this rival skater? Now, this time it's not Joe Montana, but you do know the answer.
Well, I think it's Nancy Kerrigan.
It is Nancy Kerrigan. That
And
is
I didn't even
correct.
copy off of Mark's paper this time.
that's
I
my
usually have
answer.
to look over there.
Well, I
and
told you,
writes it
it's
down.
pretty close to NASCAR, right?
Well, yeah.
Skating.
Oh, is it? Oh, because they go in circles, right?
They go in circles, that's right. Okay. Mark, you had gone to an interesting conference. Tell us what's going on in some real estate.
Well, first let's talk about what's happening lately in real estate. You know, anecdotally, you know, since I'm in the lending business and I'm lending to real estate investors who are buying, fixing, and flipping, going back to the fourth quarter, there were an awful lot of long faces in the industry because sales were really down. The fourth quarter of 2011, in my opinion, may end up being, you know, the absolute trough in the real estate industry. And what I'm seeing is an awful lot of optimism in the market. In fact, I've been talking to a lot of real estate agents who are telling me that they've got an awful lot of more properties in contract right now than they had a month ago or several months ago or last year at this time.
Our other special guest is going to be Kate Collins from Gaia Energy Systems. And she is our solar expert. And it's going to be very interesting because I've purchased solar for my house. So I know a little bit, I know just enough to make me dangerous.
It's not like tanning or anything like that, is it?
No, not
yeah.
that I know of.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, unusual sports stories. Which St. Louis Cardinal missed the 1985 World Series due to a freak injury when the automatic tarp ran over his leg? Anyone?
No idea.
None.
Vince Coleman.
Still don't know.
Remember the Coleman stove? All right, tune in next week to the Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.